Hello, everybody. Today, I weigh 155.5. That's the lowest I've weighed in a really long time. Hopefully, we can keep that momentum going for tomorrow. What was eaten today? I gotta be honest, it was a pretty minimal diet today. In the morning, I had 8 of those keto butter cookies. And then I had some turkey, smoked seasoned black pepper turkey, wrapped in provolone cheese. Very good. Now, after that, for lunch, I had a smashed burger, the frozen patty that I cooked. I also cooked some bacon, 4 slices of thin hickory smoked bacon. I put them on top of the patty, and then I put a cut of Tillamook cheese on top as well. I then had the bread, which were 2 keto toasts, and a Coke Zero. And that's pretty much what I had today. Now, I'm going to take my vitamins after recording this, but that's pretty much the last thing I'm going to eat for today. Well, alrighty then. How was any exercise done? Any exercise today? Lots of running around the store at work and lifting heavy objects and things like waters and bottles and bags and stuff like that. That's pretty much the extent of it. Although I did have a full 8-hour shift today, so I did get plenty of walking in. Alright, well, now that we're done with the diet update, let's get into the daily update. So, I woke up in the morning, and the interesting thing was I remember I had a dream last night where I was going out of the store I work at, and I went to a nearby Krispy Kreme's in the dream. There's no Krispy Kreme's that's in the store, or near the store, I mean, but there was in the dream. So I went there and I picked up some donuts and some cakes, and I brought them back to the store and shared them with my coworkers. And that was the dream. Pretty interesting, huh? Well, when I got up, I used the restroom and I checked my weight. And when I was done with that, I greeted my mom, who was writing in her journal. She requested me to dust the top of the fan blades off in the living room and the kitchen. So I got this ladder stand that our family friend got us a while back off Temu for what she claimed was 1 cent. Now, of course, I'm expecting this thing to fall apart as soon as I open it and then step on it, but it turned out to function as intended, and it wasn't too bad. I was able to get up on the fan blades and wipe them nice and clean. Real good. Well, after doing that, my mom left for work. So I decided to get some of the keto butter cookies out. I made a cup of coffee, and I went into the den to watch a video that was about this abandoned stop-motion animated Disney project that never saw the light of day, directed by Henry Selick, the guy behind Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline and James and the Giant Peach, and recently Wendell and Wild. He was working on a project called The Shadow King, and in this project It was going to be about two orphan boys, with one of the boys having these extremely long fingers. But even though his fingers seem like a disability at first, he later learns to use them well over the course of the film, being able to make shadow puppets and the like. The film would have had a stop motion animation as its main driver for storytelling. And apparently, Pixar and Disney were the ones that were funding and overseeing the project. It ultimately fell through from being completed because Henry Selick was just overcome with the constant demands by John Lasseter, who apparently was always getting involved in the project. And like, when they found a direction they liked and they were going down the route, he would always come and say, yeah, but what about this and what about that, and it would always like get them to change it. And that can work for a computer animated movie where changing things is relatively fast because it's a virtual environment. It's not so reasonable when it's with stop motion, where shots take hours and hours to complete, and having to completely redo a shot from the very start eats up a lot of time, money, and resources. And that's ultimately what happened. The movie went over budget due to John Lasseter's constant requests and wanting to get deep into the process. And Henry Selick simply had creative differences and just couldn't really, handle all of the changes. So he dropped it out. But he was able to retain the rights to the Shadow King, and he's expressed interests in bringing the project alive again, which would be cool because I'm always down for a new Henry Selick stop motion animated film because I've really liked all of his films. I mean, they all have cool creative visuals and they're just super unique and fun to watch. Well, anyways, after I was done watching that, I started watching a new Digital Foundry video about this video game called I think it was called The Outer Wilds 2, or something like that. I gotta be honest though, this game wasn't really drawing my attention too much. I stopped after a few minutes. I don't know, it just, like, it didn't look that interactive and it just looked kind of meh to me, the physics and everything surrounding it. So I dropped out of that video after a while. And then afterwards, I remember I wanted to get to work on my Infinite Jest little adaptation thing. So I got out my phone and I started to consult ChatGPT in generating a show Bible for Sora 2, where it could look at what the characters are supposed to look like and the environment and what that's supposed to look like, and use that as a basis for generating the videos. And then I would go through scene by scene and shot by shot what I want and how I want it changed and presented. Yeah. Excuse me. It was quite a process, and overall I got results that were fairly compelling. I mean, the characters look like themselves 80% of the time. It is a little annoying though, because you have to write the request out, then what you want to happen in the scene. And I'm using thinking mode for ChatGPT 5, so it gets a better answer. And then I have to wait for the generation again. So overall, it is a really tedious process that, while fun at first, I'm starting to reconsider. I'm thinking I'd rather just make my own little projects on, like, just drawing things and stuff like that. I mean, I'm playing around with Sora 2 and I've been having a lot of fun, but because it's kind of cool, like describing how you view a scene and then seeing it play out through Sora. But at the same time, you know, it takes a while for things to go. You can't get that character consistency you're looking for, and overall, it's just kind of annoying to deal with ultimately. Well, anyways, after I was done messing around with my Infinite Jest Sora 2 adaptation for a little while, I decided to get dressed and ready to go for work, but I didn't eat anything yet, so I simply just got some turkey lunch meat and provolone cheese and wrapped that with some mustard put on top, and I just ate that. And then I ran off on my way to work, where I got in my car and I drove off. Yeah, so when I eventually got to work, the first hour was spent doing a lot. I greeted all my coworkers, asked them how they were doing, and I was ready to lock in with the day. Oh yeah. So, yeah, I brought my A game in. I did a lot for the first hour, and the next 3 hours it was just bagging, so nothing to worry about there. I did take out deliveries today too, so yeah, that went mostly smoothly. And then afterwards, I needed to punch out and leave for home for lunch. So I drove home, I made my smash burger, I greeted my sister who was there. My sister actually was at my job on my first half shift. I waved at her, she waved back. And she was asking me how my shift was going. I said it's going good, and she's saying the day is pretty smooth. Nothing to really complain about so far. And then I started watching a video about like the 5 levels of awareness, and then I told my sister about that, and then we got a little conversation about that. Then it was time to leave for work again, so I said goodbye to her and I got some coffee, and then I drove off from our coffee machine, by the way. The last 4 hours, pretty interesting. I was supposed to have one of my coworkers work with me at the end of the shift, but they never called or responded back when the boss tried calling them. I know because the boss told me. I hope they're doing okay. I hope that nothing bad's going on, because if so, that would not be good. But yeah, I had to do all the closing chores. Luckily, I did have some help, so I didn't do all of them. I did a decent amount of them. One of my coworkers, who is a GM, decided to take on some of the responsibilities too, which I asked them for and was very grateful for. I ended up taking out the trash, refilling the bags, wiping down check stands, closing produce blinds. I actually was asked to stay an additional hour, and I agreed to do that. So, yeah, I cleared the lot and I helped bag, and I was getting to conversations with one of my coworkers who's a cashier and also an artist, and he was telling me about what he was learning in art school, and he was talking about perspective and how he believes techniques like creating like shapes and then doing like a wireframe around it, something that's really important to practice your understanding of 3-dimensional mass, which I thought was quite good. I then told my dream to my 2 co-workers who were still there. They seemed to think that was pretty interesting. And then afterwards, I punched out, I normally would have wiped down check stand 4, but I said I was free to go by the main manager for that night. So I punched out, I left, I was listening to my Infinite Jest recording I did a while back where I read the first chapter to get some ideas for the generations I would be doing. Then I drove home, and when I got home, my mom was watching a little documentary on Sodom and Gomorrah because she wanted to know, as in the last days of the earth as they would be like it from Sodom and Gomorrah, what she told me, and so she wanted to know what it was like back then. And there was like a guy on YouTube talking about it. His editing was really weird because he was like talking about stuff, but he wasn't showing images that were super relevant to what he was saying, just like pulsing patterns and things like that, which made me feel like he was trying to hypnotize the viewer. Then afterwards, I showed my mom a view of the Galaxy XR experience and what to expect from getting a demo unit shown off in store. And she seemed to think that was quite interesting. And then afterwards, she punched out for the night, and then I spent most of the night going between asking ChatGPT to help me write great waterproof prompts for Sora 2 for my Infinite Jests little adaptation project, and then watching episodes of Mission Hill, late 90s, early 2000s cartoon that was like pretty edgy for its time. About like two brothers, like where the parents dump the nerdy brother off on like the like older brother who's living with like just two other roommates, and they get in all kinds of interesting adventures. It's a pretty funny show. I like it. And then after getting fed up with not getting the generations I wanted, I decided to close the browser I was using Sora 2 through and go in my room and make this video. And that's pretty much the day in a nutshell. I'm sure I could have gotten any extra details that happened at work, but nothing too particular is popping in my head right now. So I guess that's it for now, and I'm gonna go to bed. So good night, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Sayonara.